Okay. What we wanted to do today is really just talk a bit about the Open University, very briefly, I promise. We're going to show you a video that we've made with one of our senior lecturers, Natalie Foster, and she's going to talk. She delivers the systems thinking program. She's going to talk a little bit about systems thinking and about the program, and then we're going to unpick some of the points that Nat makes and talk about what systems thinking practitioners do, what skill sets they develop, and how it can benefit organizations. And I think what I'll try and remember to do is pause at that point in case there are any questions. And then we're going to move on to, what the apprenticeship looks like at the Open University and how we deliver it. And then we're going to move to new steps. So you should know that where we are in the presentation, which will probably last about 45 minutes. So most people know of the Open University. You've heard of us. You've probably even seen some of the programs we make in partnership with the BBC. We've been really a household name for about 50 years. But quite often people don't really know the extent to which we deliver programs. And these are just a few general statistics about about the Open University. We've been going over 50 years now. We celebrated our 50th anniversary a couple of years ago. Most of the students that study with us are in work already, so that makes it very compatible with apprenticeships. We have about 170,000 students in any 1 year studying with us. So you can see the kind of the scale at which we operate. When we opened in 1970, our mission was to be open to people, places and ideas. That is true today as it was then. And what we do is we make sure that sort of affects the way that we deliver what we deliver and how we deliver it, which we'll talk about later. And it makes us very distinct from other campus-based universities. We also deliver nationally across the 4 nations for our degree and postgrad programs, but we also deliver internationally as well. Okay, so hopefully that's interesting that you can see our track record there. I'd like to move on and introduce you to our colleague Natalie. This is the nervous bit for me because I'm never quite sure whether the video is going to work. Nat's going to talk a little bit about systems thinking and a bit about the apprenticeship as well. So if the sound doesn't come on, somebody let me know, please.
I'm Dr. Natalie Foster. I'm a lecturer in systems in the Applied Systems Thinking and Practice group at the Open University. I work on the postgraduate level systems thinking modules and also some of our environmental management modules as well. Systems thinking is a set of knowledge, skills and behaviours that enable us as practitioners to engage with situations systemically and systematically. Let's consider the example of understanding how a bike works. We might start out systematically looking at each part of the bike in turn, the pedals, the brakes, the chain, and so on. And we might end up thinking we know how a bike works, but we must also look at it systemically as a system to transport a person from A to B. And when we do that, we also need to look at the interaction between the rider and the road and the air. Imagine a rider that's suspended in midair. They could pedal as fast as they like, but they wouldn't make any progress towards their destination. So when we look at situations and engage with them, it's really important for us to be both systematic and systemic. So systems thinking is useful in situations that might be described as complex or messy. And generally for me, those situations are quite recognizable by 2 questions. And the first is, I know I've got a problem, but I don't know what the problem is. And secondly, I know what the problem is, but there's no obvious single or right solution. The Systems Thinking Practitioner Apprenticeship is a work-based learning program that brings together academic study and work-based learning in a way that can be delivered flexibly around the needs of your workplace. Graduates from the program will be able to apply systems thinking in practice, and it creates managers and leaders who are capable of managing change, making strategy, and co-designing interventions within your organization. The apprenticeship is suitable for new and existing employees who work in leadership and managerial roles. The program content and assessment strategy are consistent with the Systems Thinking Practitioner Apprenticeship Standard. It comprises 4 modules, which include making strategy, managing change, and co-designing interventions, and evidencing systems thinking in practice. These modules cover core systems thinking concepts, modeling, information gathering and analysis, ethics and power, creativity and learning, teamwork, leading, communicating and influencing, and stakeholder engagement and collaboration. An apprentice successfully completing the program will be eligible to claim a postgraduate diploma in systems thinking in practice and professional recognition at the advanced practitioner level of the Systems and Complexity in Organizations professional body. In 2021, the Open University is celebrating 50 years of teaching systems thinking. We have perhaps the largest and most experienced provider of systems thinking in practice in the world, and we have a substantial archive of our materials available to the public. My colleague, Professor Ray Eisen, had the initial idea for the Systems Thinking Practitioner Apprenticeship. He convened a group of employers with an interest in systems thinking who formed the Trailblazer Committee. The Trailblazer Committee worked together to get the apprenticeship approved by the Institute for Apprenticeships and Technical Education. The Open University is now a registered provider for the Systems Thinking Practitioner Apprenticeship. Undertaking an apprenticeship whilst working in a leadership and managerial role can be hard work, but the Open University has a small team of people to help apprentices to succeed. You'll be supported along the way by a practice tutor who will work with you on the work-based learning module and also form a link between your employer, the apprentice, and the Open University. You'll also have associate lecturers who are module tutors who will help you along the way for the core learning modules. If required, you'll also have an English and Maths functional skills tutor who will help you to gain the skills in English and Maths required by the apprenticeship standard. And you'll also have an account manager and an apprenticeship program delivery manager who work with the employer to make sure that things go as they should.
There we are. Okay, so I hope you found that useful and interesting. What I'd like to do now is unpick some of the things that Nat was describing there, because I think it is slightly different as a concept, systems thinking, and it certainly wasn't something I was aware of before I joined the Open University. You know, I think it's rare. It's very safe to say that it's rare to find people with job titles as systems thinking practitioners, and the skills and knowledge and behaviours that are associated with that are normally incorporated into a role and applied in a given situation. So let's just look for a minute then at where systems thinking practitioners might be found, and I think it's more to do with the situation rather than you know, a given job, but not exclusively. So where might we find practitioners? Usually they work across numerous organizational political or disciplinary boundaries, whether that be internal or external. They can encounter in their work a wide range of often incompatible perspectives on issues and tasks. They can recognize the value of engaging with multiple stakeholders, or they might have multiple stakeholders who they are seeking to work with and to collaborate with, and to seek outcomes in that collaboration. And also, I think it's true to say that they will experience some sort of an uncertainty about what the nature of the problem is, and thus what would constitute a solution. And often, I'm sure some of you will be aware of this idea of wicked problems or messes or messy problems, problems that don't seem to have an obvious solution and are highly complex. And I think that's where systems thinking practitioners can be found. I reflect back on my career prior to joining the Open University. I worked in the NHS, and everybody in the hospitals I worked in was signed up to the idea of great patient care and experience. But then when we looked at trying to implement change that affected people within those trusts, often people would come at the problem from very different perspectives. They would have very different agendas. And I looking back now, I always think that somebody who was a systems thinking practitioner in those roles would have been really helpful to help us address some of those problems. So what is it that they do? Well, I suppose they support decision makers in strategic and leadership roles, and help them to understand and address those complex and wicked problems. Often those problems can't be addressed simply by one person, one leader, usually because they're going across boundaries, and those leaders don't have authority within those organizations to make those changes. So there'll be things that have no single owner or cause. They don't have a simple solution, and they require multidisciplinary, multi-organizational responses, often having to take into account diverse viewpoints and behavior and politics. And they do this through the provision of expert systemic analysis and advice and facilitation. So I, off the top of my head, came up with areas where I think, and roles where I think this type of apprenticeship could apply. And I suppose it's people who are in senior project or program management positions. That would be one area. Those people who are involved in transformational change, which is complex and multi-level. Those people who are involved in developing policy and strategy, or people who might be involved in developing a product or service design where there are a number of organizations or individuals who are having input into those areas. And I think also the thing that strikes me is that people who are in leadership positions, I know we're all very familiar with notions and concepts of management and leadership and management and leadership development. And I think this is slightly different, but the more I've worked with it, the more I think that this is the skills that are included here are skills that any leader, any modern leader, should have in their toolkit to be able to pull out in given situations. So that's a bit of an overview of systems thinking and systems thinking practitioners. I said I would pause. I'm just going to pause now. Has anybody got any questions about what you have heard or seen so far? And I'll just have a swig of tea. No, nothing in the chat?
No, nothing in the chat, Paul. Seems to be all fine.
Okay, great. What we'll do now is we'll move on to look at systems thinking and practice at the Open University. And you may already have heard Nat say this in the video, that we we have a quite an impressive track record in systems thinking, and we were right at the vanguard of systems thinking when it became popular. Last year we celebrated 50 years of delivering systems thinking education. 30,000 people have studied our ideas in some form during that period. We have a range not just of postgraduate qualifications, but we also have a range of free resources and open research, which is available to any of you. We spend a lot of time undertaking research in the real world to inform our practice and benefit our partners. And we've worked in areas of environmental decision making, sustainable development, international development, systemic governance. I'm not going to read the list, but yeah. So we've got quite a strong track record in delivering systems thinking and practice education. So let's move on to the apprentice. The apprenticeship. So this is our apprenticeship. It leads to, it has a duration of about 2 years. It leads to a postgraduate diploma in systems thinking in practice, as well as an apprenticeship. Individuals will also need to have, by the end of the apprenticeship, their functional skills at level 2, and they will be going through an endpoint assessment. We'll talk a little bit about that later. So that's what you get with the apprenticeship. My experience with functional skills is it's far better if people have evidence of their functional skills prior to joining an apprenticeship, because often it can be a bit of a distraction trying to do postgraduate study work and complete functional skills. So how do we deliver apprentices at the Open University? So we call it tutor-supported online learning. Well, we've been, specialising in developing adults, who tend to be adults who possibly haven't succeeded at school but want to undertake higher education. What we've realised, we've developed expertise over the 50 years in how to do this. And what we know is that online learning by itself doesn't work. So we call it tutor-supported online learning. When students study with us, they get some hard copy books, they get downloadable books. What we know is that we need to make our learning very interactive and reflective and engaging, usually because people have responsibilities outside of study. So by the time they actually find time to study, they've done either a full day's work or some sort of caring responsibilities, and it's usually the last thing that they have to do. So they're all probably quite a bit tired by the time they start to study. So we have to make it engaging and motivating for them. Part of that is using very rich media, videos, animations, and audio. But as well as that, individuals, and part of the learning process is that people need to engage with peers. So they are part of tutorial groups, and we have online tutorials as part of this program, which supports students. Individuals have access to their academic tutors who help them with their academic study, and they can be contacted by email and by phone. And they are there to very much to support their students. Students, if you are struggling, you don't have to wait until your tutorial to raise an issue. You can discuss it with your tutor and or with your tutor group. And as this is an apprenticeship, we also have a role which is a practice tutor role. Practice tutor pre the pandemic would visit in the workplace about 3 times per module to support the apprentice and make sure that they're progressing and that they have the right learning opportunities. Since the pandemic has struck, we've moved those tutor visits online, but they're still taking place. So part of part of the apprenticeship is that there are also tutor group forums, which are like chat pages, which are integrated into Student Home, which we're going to have a look at in a minute, so that students can, share their ideas and thoughts and ask for support from their peers. Most people will study on their PCs or laptops at home, but we've recently developed an app called OU Anywhere, which enables people to study on the go using their mobile phones and tablets. And as an ex-student myself, I can say I didn't think it would work, an app like that, but what you find yourself doing is turning any quick opportunities into quick, short, bite-sized pieces of learning. So it's a great way just to keep up to date with what's going on in your tutor group. So that's how we do it. We've developed our pedagogy, our learning design over many years, and it's designed specifically for online distant learning for people that may not have succeeded earlier in life. I wanted to give you a snapshot idea of this is what it looks like for a student. This is what we call Student Home. The example I'm showing here is not from the apprenticeship. It's from one of our business programs, but all of our modules follow exactly the same setup. What you can see here, if you can see down the left-hand corner of the screen, that's what we call the study calendar. And you can see week 1 says introduction, and then there's week 2. What we know is it's very easy when you're studying on your own to get behind. There's always distractions and other things that need to be done rather than your studies. And so what we do is we help people to stay on track and on target by placing behind each week all of the resources they need to undertake in that week to keep up to speed. So people don't need to go to libraries. We bring the library to them. We bring all your reading materials to you, and all of the activities that need to be undertaken will be behind week 1 on that study planner. So that's the first thing that we do. If you look at the top at the tool, we call it a toolbar at the top, people can see what their assessments will be in advance. They'll know the title, they'll know the date of submission. You get helpful examples of your assessment, and it's all behind that tab. Your tutorials, your online tutorials are also there. Individuals can, we recommend that they have their tutorials with their tutor and their tutor group. We know that that's not always possible, so people can book themselves into different tutorials at different times that suit them. And we record our tutorials so people can, if they're not able to attend any tutorials, they can look at the recordings at least. The other tab is for forums. That leads people into there's normally a variety of different forums that are set up by the tutor and the forums administrator on various subjects that relate to the learning material. And so that's where you would get access to it. So you can see there that everything you need is in your student home. And as I said earlier, our approach is to bring the university to the student rather than the student having to take time out of their day to go on campus.
Can I just add to that, Paul?
Yeah.
Actually, I wanted to, sorry to butt in, but I just thought it was quite a good point that you made in terms of how valuable that is for professionals, because the OU's had more than 50 years experience in delivering distance learning, and that means really that all that you see, that VLE system, etc., has been designed and really improved, across all those years. So we quite a pioneer, aren't we, on that delivery model, which works really well for professionals. So I thought it was worth mentioning, because many universities are going distance learning now and have adapted quite rapidly. They had to, but unfortunately, they might not all have had the experience and time and resource to develop those systems. So I think our learners really value that.
Smashing. Thank you, Elizabeth. I just wanted to show you, if you were to click behind one of those weeks, this is very much what you would see. You can see it's broken down into the different tasks and readings. You can see there's a video to watch and analyze. I hope you can see that it's very professional and it's highly engaging. Okay, let's look in a little bit more detail then at the actual systems thinking practitioner apprenticeship, and we'll look at the modules. I'm sorry, the writing is a little bit small on there. I hope you can see it all. We do have a very detailed brochure that's associated with this apprenticeship, where you can see how the modules work together and the detail of the content for each of those modules. We're running it for the first time in May as an apprenticeship. You can see it's made up of 3 modules: making strategy with systems thinking, and managing change. Our existing modules and form part of our MSc. The co-designing interventions module is a new module that we're developing specifically for the apprenticeship. And you can see underneath, running all the way through the apprenticeship, is a module called Evidencing Systems Thinking in Practice. And that is where you apply your academic study into your own practice, and you log your activities and behaviours and experiences to make sure that you're complying with the apprenticeship standards. At the end on the far right there, you can see a box which says EPA. That's the endpoint assessment. And what I can tell you is that that would normally be done right at the end of an apprenticeship. But that's probably not going to happen. We're looking at moving that to try and integrate it into the rest of the apprenticeship, so that it isn't something that people have to do as an extra. So yeah, it's because it's new. We're in the process of designing at the moment. It'll be all ready to run for May, and we're looking at making that EPA process a lot simpler and student friendly. Okay, so I'd like to just talk a little bit more about the support that apprentices can experience when they're studying with us at the Open University. I've mentioned some of these roles before. There's the academic tutor, who you probably won't meet in person, but they will be there to support you, and they're highly active in the tutor forums, posting questions, advice, and extra pieces of learning that they may think you would be interested in. And you got your practice tutor, and they're coming into your workplace, be it virtually at the moment, to make sure that you're developing your portfolio and you're succeeding in that portfolio module that we saw in the previous slide. And as well as that, we have a team for each of our qualifications, and they're called the Student Support Team. The idea behind that is that they can offer students with particular needs additional support. If students are struggling with, say, in aspects of their study skills, and their other tutors, who would be normally their first port of call, are unable to help them, then they have a student support team who can work with them to develop study skills strategies, for example, to help them overcome individual problems. So as well as that, we have a department, apprenticeship program delivery team, and each employer has an apprenticeship program delivery manager who works with the employer to support that employer with the apprentices that they have on program with the Open University. Anybody that's doing English and maths functional skills will also have a support team behind them, and you should also have within the organisation line manager stroke mentor who is supporting you through that process, which sounds if you're at quite a senior level, it is perhaps unusual, but the idea is that the employer does get involved in supporting individuals in their apprenticeship development. As well as the support team there, we've also got, you know, library services and people within the library service, which is available 24 hours online. You can usually get hold of a librarian via email to help you with any challenges that you might be facing. We have an IT support team for students who might be experiencing problems. You can guarantee that when you're trying to load up one of your assignments, which is a critical point, your IT won't work. So the IT support team are there to help students with any IT or technical problems that they may have as well. So I hope what you're getting from this is a feel that although we're delivering learning at a distance, it's a highly supportive experience. People don't feel that they're on their own. They've got their tutors, they've got their peer groups in the tutorial groups, you've got a wider support team, and you've got your employers as well, also offering some support.
Sorry, Paul, to interrupt.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
A question which I've answered in the chat, but I'm not sure if everybody had a chance to read it. So one of our attendees asked the question whether they could do the apprenticeship faster. So, you know, have a shorter duration than 24 months, which I informed that we couldn't. However, people can learn faster. There's different learning methods and speed. So they can definitely be flexible in that way, but the assessments and gateways were fixed because it is an apprenticeship as well. Yeah. But I think there's another question coming. Okay. Someone is typing, so I might.
Do we want to wait for that question? Because it is a good point, because I'm going to move on to entry requirements and next steps. So we'll just wait for that question to come through if it's coming through quickly.
Or Sarah, if you prefer, you can also
unmute.
Unmute, yeah, whatever is easier for you.
I've just sent it, so hopefully you've seen it now.
Right, so I'm just going to read it for Paul because he has no view of the question. So will we have access to these slides? Of course you will, yeah, absolutely. And there'll also be a recording that we will send to everybody that has registered and attended, yeah.
Thank you.
No
and if you would like us to send you the brochure, which has got a lot of detail in it, Sarah, just let us know. One of us will send that out.
Absolutely, love to. Thank you very much.
Okay, Elizabeth, would you mind sharing your email address or my email address in the chat?
Yeah, no, I'll put mine. That's no problem at all.
Thank you very much indeed. Okay, so with the Open University, normally we don't have entry requirements. And that's one of our principles, that we're here to support people that have not traditionally succeeded at school. Because this is at a master's level, we do have an entry requirement, and that isn't about being elitist, and it isn't about being exclusive. What we want to make sure is that individuals who study at master's level are going to succeed and not find it overwhelming and have a negative experience. So the entry requirements are that people should have an undergraduate degree from a UK university, or if it's from overseas, that's fine. You can do an equivalency check, and that's absolutely fine. Some people will have got to a position where they want to undertake postgraduate study, but they don't have a degree. So what we're looking for here is relevant experience in your job, and that will be around things like your experience of making transformational change, your experience of utilizing your leadership capabilities. And I think it will be something like an application where you would describe your experience and activities in that area. You also, although you don't have to have functional skills to come on the program, you do need to have that by the time you leave, but we do need people to be able to have spoken and written English at a level which will enable you to study at postgraduate level. If you have English as a second language, then we need IELTS as a minimum score of 6. Okay, so those are the entry requirements. I'll talk a little bit about the process of entry on the next slide. The other thing to be aware of is with an apprenticeship, you will also need your employer to approve 20% off the job training. Now, if you were to study an apprenticeship at a traditional campus-based university, that would 20% would probably be taken up with attendance in lectures. With the Open University approach, you can flex that 20% off the job learning. So you can choose when you study, whether it be a couple of hours a day, whether it be on block, and you can also choose what you include in that. So it may not be academic study. It may be that your employer has organised a short secondment or a visit to another department, which allows you to develop your knowledge, experience and understanding, or even attendance at a conference, for example. And all of those things can be included in the 20% off the job learning. And if you're not familiar with apprenticeships, you probably have an apprenticeship team within your workplace, and they will be able to talk to you about that a little bit more.
Sorry, Paul, we have a question.
Oh, good. Don't apologise. I like questions.
Yes, sorry. So one question was around the MSc versus the apprenticeship. So I explained that the apprenticeship was for the postgraduate diploma, but that there would be the possibility to top up to an MSc for an additional 3 modules. And then Edith is asking, I can't find my GCSE certificates, but have my degree certificate. Will this impact?
There's 2 solutions there. There is a website that you can visit, which will enable you to track your certificates down, or your evidence of your qualification, which you can present to the Open University. I believe that is acceptable to us. The other thing is that what we do is if you can't evidence your functional skills, is we will undertake a functional skills audit with you, which allows you just to study and get up to speed with the bits that you can't do. So you don't have to go and do your O-levels again. You don't have to necessarily go to FE college and get your functional skills. We can just help you with getting yourself up to speed to sit the exam. Elizabeth and Karis, do you want to come in here? Is there anything else you can add for that?
I was just going to mention actually that some people are asking the details of the website. So if they email me, I've put my email address in the chat. I will send you the link to where you can do that. I know there is a website absolutely where you can get copies, but also confirmation of your GCSEs.
Okay, lovely. Thank you, Elizabeth.
I think there's another question. Sorry, Paul.
Okay.
What if you are confident in English and math? So I think Edith is still asking the question. So unfortunately, I think it's the ESFA, isn't it, that is asking for those GCSEs. So this is not down to the university. It's a requirement, which is unfortunate, but it's a requirement from the ESFA. For apprenticeships. I know that might change in the future, because I think you're absolutely right. You know, if you've got a degree, you must be confident in English and math, and that should be sufficient. But unfortunately, they do ask for evidence of GCSE, which can be a bit of a, You
don't have to have it come onto the program. So you can come on with not have those certificates. It's fine. But what will require you to do is your functional skills by the end of the program, to enable you to go through the endpoint assessment. And as Elizabeth says, this applies to all apprenticeships, whether it's a level 2 in hairdressing or mechanics, or a master's level, like the one we're talking about now. It's a government requirement. The purpose of it is to ensure that we have our basic skills leveled up within the country. So, yeah, but I'm very happy to talk about it offline. If you want, just contact Elizabeth or myself. Okay, are we okay to go on? Are there any more questions?
I think there's another one. Sorry, coming. There's a hand raised actually. Lucy would like to. Is it Lucy?
It's Liam.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. Paul, can I just ask about the 20% off the job training? What does that actually equate to per like week or month? Is it like a half a day a week, half a day, you know, fortnight? What does that actually equate to?
If you're full time, Liam, it equates to a day a week.
Okay.
But as I said, you can be flexible about how you organise that. As long as by the end of the apprenticeship you have met the hours required, you evidence that in your portfolio, you can do that however, really. And I think the other advantage of our particular method is, you know, we know that people will go through really busy times and less busy times. And so you can say, actually, this is a really crucial period for me at work. I'm not going to do any off-the-job learning for the next 2 or 3 weeks, but I'll catch it up the next month. Okay. As long as you're keeping up to speed with your academic studies, you can put that off-the-job learning on hold for a little bit.
And how do we evidence that? So yeah. I've done apprenticeships beforehand, and it just seemed to be kind of felt like a bit of a tick box exercise that you just said that on certain days I was doing a couple of hours here and a couple of hours there. Right. I guess that's probably moved on now. So how do we evidence that?
My understanding is that you evidence that in the portfolio that you're building, which is then assessed. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think there is a system that will be, I think they've changed actually the system with the OU, so I'm not quite sure what it is now, but there is a system where you will be able to log the activities and the time and demonstrate, you know, keep that evidence, so you can go through the different gateway, you know, in terms of the APA at the end. Yeah. But all of this is explained once actually we've got apprentices or candidates for the apprenticeship interested. They have to attend what we call an information guidance webinar, which is mandatory, and all of these little, you know, detailed information is explained at that stage. So we're trying not to overwhelm you too much at this stage with everything. But if you're interested for more, you have candidates within your organization, that's definitely the next step would be to attend that information guidance webinar where they go much more in detail into the process.
That's helpful. Sorry, I like
no, not at all. No, my pleasure.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so if you're interested either for yourself or for colleagues in your organization, then you need to get an expression of interest to us by the 3rd of March. We have a particular piece of paper. It's just a contact form that you need to return to us. People that are interested, as Elizabeth just said, need to attend an information advice session where the detail of the apprenticeship is explained to them, so that, you know, largely you don't get any nasty surprises when you get onto the program and find it's different from what you thought it was going to be. So once you're happy with that, then we invite you to apply via email. We send an email out to you, and you apply online using a portal, and you need to update your upload your certificates onto that portal. You'll then be notified of your outcome, whether you're on the program or not. And within 2 weeks of the start date, which I believe is the 1st of May, you'll be sent what we call your PI, your personal identifier number, and your logon details. And at that point, you'll be able to log on and start to do your study. As an ex-student myself with the OU, if you do get on, I would recommend you do take that 2 weeks to familiarize yourself with Student Home, the protocols for working in forums, and the assessment strategy. In that way, you'll be nicely prepared for starting your study. Okay. Thank you for your time and any questions. And it's been really great that you've asked questions and posted questions in the chat. If you've got any final questions, now's a good time to ask. We've got about 10 minutes left.
So there was one question about the intake in May. And I just confirmed in the chat that the apprenticeship is only run once a year, so that will be May for the moment.
Give it a few more minutes. No hands going up.
No question. Everybody's saying thank you, but I don't know if you can see that yet, Paul.
I'm just going to stop presenting. I think I am anyway.
Yes.
Finished?
So,
okay.
If you have any more questions, if you think of anything else, please do contact us. So you've got my email address, but also Paul now. I'm more than happy to have separate chats and see how we can help you and your organization. We will send the recording and also the brochure and the information that we have, so you have everything handy. I think that's it.
Okay, everyone. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for taking time to join us today, and I hope you found that useful. I'll finish recording now.